This is one of those the world is turning upside down stories. Eric Holder, the Attorney General, proposes lighter sentences for drug dealers. Yep, you heard it right. Eric Holder has proposed, indeed has ordered, his federal prosecutors to sentence drug dealers more leniently than they have in the past. His directive is for his prosecutors to request, on average, 20% less jail time for drug dealers who are arrested. Now, he claims it's for non-violent drug dealers, but by definition, if you're arrested as a drug dealer, it's not a violent crime, and your sentence is dependent on how much you're dealing, how much you're selling. And many of these dealers are selling vast amounts and are sentenced to 30 or 40 years in prison. It is almost the only effective check we have on the proliferation of gangs throughout the inner city. It used to be that drug dealers and kingpins just were treated very lightly. Then in 1986, Congress passed a bill 99-0 in the Senate that was sponsored by Ted Kennedy and Jesse Helms, so everybody got on board, requiring mandatory sentences for drug dealers. And that has worked so well. It absolutely cleaned the streets of many of the gangs that were dominating northeastern cities, and was a big part of the reduction of the homicide rate by about 2/3 that's occurred. Then in early years of this century, the court threw out the mandatory sentences, saying that they infringed on judicial power. But the sentencing commission that was charged with setting up these sentences still recommended that prosecutors and judges follow the guidelines voluntarily, and most of them did, although they applied it with a little more flexibility. Now Holder wants to dismantle the whole thing and give drug dealers very light sentences. On average, he wants to reduce the sentences from 5 years to 4 years. And this will result in literally freeing drug dealers 20% earlier to roam the streets. It's part of his whole program of sort of forgiving felonies and rehabilitating felons to be in society. He's proposed that people who are convicted of felonies be permitted to vote even when they're in prison, and certainly right after their release. He's about 1/3 of the Medicaid beneficiaries who are being signed up by Obamacare are currently in prison. And this statement, this advice, is to completely abandon the sentencing guidelines and let these guys off with very minor terms. This kind of revolving door justice with nominal sentences resulted in the crime waves of the 70s and the 80s, and Holder wants to bring us right back to that. His recommendations have to be approved by the Sentencing Commission next month, and I hope they don't, but since many of those are Obama appointees, they probably will approve them. And you're going to see a cascade of drug dealers let back out onto the streets. Already, Obama and Holder have moved to equalize the penalties for crack and cocaine. In other words, bring the penalties for crack down to the levels of cocaine. And what they're now doing is saying that those who have been sentenced under crack penalties that were higher should get out when they've served as much time as the cocaine people have. So that'll result in tens of thousands of additional drug types going back on the street. Just incredible. The world is turning upside down in this field. Thanks for watching.